I'm a man who believed that I died 20 years ago, and I live like a man who is dead already. I have no fear whatsoever of anybody or anything.
Gary Webb. I am an investigative journalist, and in 1996, I wrote a series of stories entitled Dark Alliance, which was about CIA involvement in drug trafficking.
I knew a man who once said death smiles at us all. All a man can do is smile back.
We've both been skull and bone with the secret society. It's so secret we can't talk about it. What does that mean for America? The conspiracy theorists are going to go on.
Sure they are. I don't know. I haven't seen the rest.
Number 322.
I sad duty to report this afternoon that my friend and colleague, Tim Russert, collapsed and died early this afternoon.
I may die in this cell tonight or in the arena tomorrow. I am a slave. What possible difference can I make?
And no official of my administration, whether his rank is high or low, civilian or military, should interpret my words here tonight as an excuse to censor the news, to stifle dissent, to cover up our mistakes, or to withhold from the press and the public the facts they deserve to know.
What's up? Welcome to Already Dead, your favorite weekly call-in conspiracy variety show. Just so you guys know, in the second half of the show, about 45 minutes to an hour in, we will open the phone lines. Crazy week, Austin. Me and you have been spurging big time. I do want to give a quick apology to the patrons, or I guess just also the public audience. This will probably affect you like a week from now. Unless I squeeze in another episode, maybe it'll iron things out. But I'm probably one episode down. I don't know what it is. I think God is a Fed, and I think he doesn't want us to do our Watergate episode. Dude. Because literally, both times, day of, some shit came up, real shit. People have lives, so stuff happens, and you're like, shit, I gotta take care of this, and it's like, we get it, but usually it's an anomaly. But it's both times we scheduled the Watergate. First time you, second time me, and you're like, God, what the fuck? God. We'll have to delay a little bit longer. We're not gonna let God get in our way. But yeah, though go ahead. Sorry.
Oh no, I mean, first I think we should call for, I guess Drake and Kendrick need to halt the beef, because clearly we need to teach young black kids in the Bronx how to say the word computer, right? Because they don't seem to know the word computer. What the fuck, I tell you, all the young black kids know about computers with this fucking Drake versus Kendrick beef going on. The funniest fucking thing I've ever seen, honestly. But
yeah, you know what? I actually remembered as we were playing the intro. They're actually, I don't even know why it would even matter now that I think about it. But Kendrick took off for all of his content, I think, or maybe it was just the videos. He took off copyright rules because that was a big story, and which is genius because the whole thing is people do it to get their money. But it's obviously if you do the opposite, then you get more reach, because now that spreads that, and he's just trying to flood, so it allows other content creators to use it in their videos. So point being is we can totally just straight up play that video on the show, and it's not an issue. I don't know if you'd want to, but I do think that They Not Like Us, because they're the two most recent is They Not Like Us, and then Heart Part 6 was Drake's return to that. Which did you catch both those? I feel so gay that in a parapolitics show we're talking about this, but I think maybe if you guys haven't seen these, I think you will start to understand how this now is in our world. Oh, what the fuck is going on here? And it is cool because it's I don't know how you are if you're a big rap fan. I like the kind of stuff Kendrick does sort of in the past. Right. I'm not a huge rap guy, but I like that lyrical stuff that Kendrick types do, really clever stuff. Right. Drake is obviously more poppy bullshit. So I'm definitely I'm more of the kind of guy who would listen to people like Self-Titled, Apathy,
Right.
Immortal Technique, Vinnie
Mhm.
Paz, people like those
Right.
are my type of artists.
Jedi
So like
mind tricks,
yeah,
like
Jedi Mind
yeah,
Tricks. So it is like
100%.
Army of the Pharaohs. Like so it
Right.
is like I could totally click with Kendrick's style far more than Drake's.
Exactly.
But this has begun. So it's like we're analyzing lyrics, so it's like fun for me in that way. But it's
Mhm.
also like, especially in They Not Like Us, Kendrick just straight up fucking, yeah, you're a pedophile, dude. Like, and
Right.
you're like, whoa. I mean, he was alluding to it in the previous one, which I forget the name of
Mhm.
that one. He said there was one line that really caught my ear in that one. He said something along the lines of like you and Weinstein. Something about whether the craziest things too. Reading these lyrics, they're literally like stuff that if you said not in a sing-songy tune are
Right.
probably legally actionable.
Yeah, no
I
shit.
mean, I think They Not Like Us probably has got, but even before that, the stuff so
Mhm.
far as violence, it's like you're a piece of shit. People should, unalive you, like that sort of
Right.
shit. Like, and like basically calling for violence in the most overt way possible, but doing it in a beat. And so you're like, okay, well,
Right. That's so funny, dude.
But yeah, no, it is weird. It is fun though. It really is. I think analyzing this, I really have. While I think Kendrick probably has some really stupid political views,
Mm.
I'm like, this dude's a lyrical genius, and like on top of that, a genius, because like some of the stuff he was doing, like he literally was like, he would allude to things in his albums, and that way, like you would only know the stuff he's rapping about, or have
Right.
a full enough understanding of it. For example, in I think Drake's most recent one, he referenced. He basically said that Kendrick got molested as a kid because there was one of his songs that he said that if in misinterpreted can be taken that way. But I guess
Right.
a lot of people say that it was actually this point of the song was that he was not molested, and that
Mhm.
it was like his family thought he was because they had gone through this cycle of abuse and they had that happen to them, and just kind of the whole concept was like the breaking the cycle of abuse, and how
Right.
even once you in a certain sense do break it, it still persists. So it's
Mhm.
actually like really, so he had Drake essentially playing off that angle when it's a completely false angle if you have the enough, I don't know, critical understanding of reading. Like,
Right.
if you're, because I'm assuming Drake probably read or heard those lyrics. But no, I
Mhm.
don't know. Anyways, I'm spurging because I've gone way too down the rabbit hole with that. I don't know. I guess what are your thoughts? I mean, it's just like, I know a lot of people are like, this is gay rap, but it's like, okay, but like, if you've been paying attention to the Diddy stuff, and
Right.
when this, you gotta think this is being thrown at Drake. And I mean, if you just like do the slightest bit of pattern recognition and start thinking about
Mhm.
like, who is this Drake fella? This is literally, we were talking about this before the show.
Yeah.
He's basically like, I'm not even saying this to be disparaging. He is a Jew. Like he went to temple, regular bar mitzvahs, all that. So there's like a video on him talking about like he regularly
That
goes,
video
he
is
was
a
a
trip,
child
dude.
actor. He's from Canada. It's
Mhm.
like it's just like the stereotype
He was
I get from
making an
that.
argument to a friend. No, yeah,
Yeah.
no, I'm Jewish. I
Yeah.
should be considered a Jew.
Yeah,
Like
yeah,
basically what he was
exactly.
doing.
And
I'm
it's like I
what
feel
the
racist
fuck?
bringing this up, but it's like, which I mean, not that I really care, but it's like my point is, it's like this like what he is not really what I feel like he puts off, and it is
Right,
his meteoric rise to success, and just kind of the way he acts and moves through spaces makes you wonder, who is this guy? Who
Mhm.
does he know? What connections does he have? And
Well,
now him and his whole crew are basically being accused of being pedophiles. And you're like, I'm seeing dots connecting.
100%, dude. That's
Yeah.
like my weird connection to Drake stems back to probably like a lot of us around our age, back to Degrassi, which I didn't even watch at all,
Yeah.
really. But the craziest part is that the one episode I know anything about, I mean, it was basically like a somewhat of a cultural event around, the people that I was growing up with. It was like a mass shooting happening at the school, right? And wasn't Drake like put in a wheelchair or something, his character or
Yeah,
something
he was
like
like
in the
the
shooting?
victim, basically. Like, I mean,
Yeah.
I don't remember if other people died in that or not.
Right,
But
right,
like I know the bit he was like the victim, like the face
right.
of the shootings, because it was like became a
Mhm.
big. He was one of the major characters, and from then on he was in a wheelchair, and so that's like that idea. But
Right.
yeah, go on.
So just that alone is almost like it almost kind of is serves as a symbol of like a chaos agent in a way, even if you have nothing to do with writing in the script for the the character or whatever the case is, but still it seems strange, right? You're kind of integrating mass shootings a little bit more into, as far as like the pop culture reference in for our generation. So for me, it was just at the very least something to that I'll never forget, right? And that was my direct introduction to Aubrey Marcus or whatever the fuck his name is.
Yeah, he's
And
Six
then
God is what he goes by.
yeah,
That is like, I mean, I've gone down some crazy rabbit holes, and I'm sure you have as well. I mean, they always seem to end up in like gematria and shit, and that's when I'm like, I may have gone too far. But there is some stuff that you are like, that type of stuff that I do put some stock in, that I'm like, a lot of weird symbolism and things going on.
Oh, yeah. No
Like
doubt.
the OT. Oh no, we did this again.
OVO, yeah.
That in and of itself is like kind of a Freudian thing. Like his brand is OVO, whereas OTO was like the Orderist, Templist. I don't know the fuck.
Orientist or whatever. Yeah.
It was Crowley's shit. So like, I mean, I don't know that. I mean, that's not much. But then you add in the owl, which is like literally his whole thing is owl. It's just a simple little owl everywhere. It's like owl is like what isn't the Moloch statue they have at fucking Bohemian Grove? Is an
100%.
owl.
Cremation of care. Yeah.
Yeah, it's so. I mean, then he goes by the Six God. Did you go down the rabbit hole of his friend that died? Did you go down that one?
No, I haven't, but I've heard of this. Like,
all right, I'm gonna have to send the video in the group chat, Adam. So keep an eye out, because it's like 2 minutes long. Because this one is one that like really got me. I was like, yo, this dude really is probably some sort of like, quote unquote, deal with the devil type thing. And by that, like, you can devil and Fed is basically interchangeable. So
sure.
and
It seems that way.
May have been made.
Oh, hey, brother.
Yeah.
All the things I've been looking into, I am not surprised. Like,
yeah.
I mean, we have straight up investigators, detectives who have, been on the beat for human trafficking and
Caradori, is that what his name is?
Oh yeah, Gary Caradori. Yeah.
Yep, that was I just got that. I've been breezing through. I mean, I don't know. I guess we haven't announced it to the YouTube audience, but we have next week. We have Nick Bryant coming on the show, which it was really weird, a coincidental thing that day, and I think it was just because it was mine. I made a post. I forget what it was, some clip of his or something, and then he ended up sharing it, and then we got in contact in the threads, and I scheduled him. But he was on my mind because I had listened to one of his episodes, and then I don't download the Franken Scandal. And I was like, oh, I'm going to read this. And I just so happened to book them that day. And now I was like, oh, well, I'll bump it up in my reading list because I was going to save it for later, finish Whitney Webb's book. But I was like, whatever, I'll come back to that. And I'm like damn near halfway through. And like when the Caradori shit drops, I'm like,
it's so crazy, man.
I don't know why. I should have seen it coming a long way off. But listening to that book, I'm like, I was expecting he was going to be a guy who somehow got ran off or something, or just got like stopped. Because I was thinking, like, as I'm listening to him, I'm like, oh, this guy's still around. I might have to look him up and try to, see like what info. And then like, but I listened to the book long, I'm like, oh shit.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
it's so nuts, man.
They yeekied his ass.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, his plane broke up mysteriously in midair.
Yeah.
That's absolutely crazy, man.
Yeah.
But I mean, he was going there to retain like actual, blackmail. Like,
yep, said he had it.
It's absolutely crazy to me.
Yeah.
But I'm pretty sure we have to ask Nick about this, because I'm pretty sure he was pulled over with Rusty Nelson, the blackmail photographer, by like a state trooper or some shit. Yeah, dude, we're gonna have to ask him about that, because that's one of the craziest stories I've ever heard him tell before. But that one, and then I've been going so freaking hard on like just the different, like, honestly, man, I didn't realize that Scientology and the Mormon Church kind of had like real heavy direct connections to the Process Church, right? And I just like, man, I cannot believe how many people were actually caught up in this network. And it seems like we have real direct evidence of, these connections being made by investigators at the time. Like, James Rothstein, who, like I said, through Watergate, dude, he's come up nonstop in everything that I've been researching. And it turns out that in 69, when he first started investigating the human trafficking networks in New York, he was called to Untermeyer Park, I believe was the name of the park. And it's like one of the craziest stories, man, because I guess like they were like committing, well, first they were holding like black masses in this park, like that. And this story had me, I was freaking out, man. You know what I mean? Like I'm saying, we're talking MI6, MI5 connections to the Kincora Boys Home, like at in the UK, you know, and then you have or no, Kincora was in Belfast, right? And dude, it just gets so insane because then you have Perfumo affair in the UK, right?
Mhm.
All the while you have Marc Dutroux happening in Belgium, you know what I mean? And then you have Boys Town in Australia, which is connected to the Kidman case and everything, and so it seems. And then
Wait, so Boys Town the whole time was an Australia thing, or was that like a place that
no,
had multiple
there's
branches?
a separate Boys Town.
Oh, so
Town
there were
facility
multiple boys towns where this was a huge,
where they're
like
being
clearly
looted
like traffic rings or
by
so,
military
so you can't
intelligence.
even make the argument that it was like the bad branch or whatever or
This is
or
what I'm
whatever.
saying.
No, this is systemic, as people like to say,
And global.
Yes.
Right. With military intelligence, working with local police departments, infiltrating them, doing whatever needed to be done. They even at one point, one of Rothstein's lead informants, he typically didn't get criminal informants. Like he refused to do that because he claimed that his informants that he operated with only came to him based on integrity and trust, and he wouldn't use a criminal informant that he had arrested in a crime. But he said that the only one that he ever used as a criminal informant was this guy named Ben Rose, who was apparently, he was supplying young boys to the United Nations when Rothstein busted him while he was wearing a wire. And so he was wearing a wire under the impression like, okay, this guy's going to try and, pay me off, and you know what I mean? And offer me a bribe or something. And I can get him on the line with that. And instead he starts offering all this intel, right? On all these people he's connected to. And so he was subsequently arraigned in fucking Langley, man. Right. So nobody could see he was ever arrested for anything, which I was just like, of course, that's how they would operate.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Do you remember the name of the dude who, because I was talking to my wife about the Franklin scandal yesterday, trying to explain it to her for someone who doesn't know anything or really interested in this type of stuff. And there was, because she was kind of like, well, how were they able to get away with it or whatever? And one sort of explanation I gave without getting too deep is like, I was like, well, I mean, it did get kind of astroturfed, and there was one guy who sort of got busted who kind of took the heat, but not really. I forget the name of the guy, but he was kind of like he was a politically connected guy as well. He later got busted for some child porn, and it was actually for diddling his neighbor's kids. And he had they found like a friggin' library of child porn, like a shitload of it, which
Jesus.
it was very disturbing to find out that they literally had like magazines, like, periodicals, like when you have like Hunter's Week or Hunter's Monthly or something. Like they had like, he was reading the titles, and it was shit like that where you're like, oh, this is a regular production to where you make this type of, CP of this specific genre or whatever, that you're like, Jesus Christ, like that. It's that established to where they're like, people go to browsers and they go click, oh, big boobs. Like, it's literally like that. And you're like, that is a disturbing idea to think of. And like the mass amount this guy had. And he got busted with, I want to say it was something less than 10 years. Because he ended up, he ended up, it wasn't necessarily pleading guilty, but he like was almost like a no contest. So it was like, and he the way his lawyer presented it was like, we're not pleading guilty, but just for the sake of the children and for everyone involved and to reduce the amount of trauma, blah, 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 we're just going to plead no contest. And I don't know if they got some sort of sweetheart deal or what, but then the child porn just like kind of just got forgotten about. And then he just got like no time. And then my wife brought up that like, oh, he was probably, you know, got a deal. And I was like, yeah, you're probably right. Like, I don't remember. Maybe Nick did say that in the book, but I was like, I was thinking, what a perverse. I mean, if you remember that point too, the feds were literally intimidating Caradori's witnesses and stuff.
Oh yeah.
So it's
yeah,
like, it's not that outside the realm of possibilities they would give this guy a sweetheart deal, but it gets to be confidential because, you know, they're feds. And then, yeah, so like the point of getting it is like the perverse incentive of the idea that that they get to come in, give these sweetheart deals, act as if it's we can get more stuff on the big guy,
right?
But then they never actually get an arrest on the big guy. But in effect, all it did was prevent someone from actually getting charged of or getting the justice they should have gotten, right. And actually prevented the evidence they procured from them from being contributed to other stuff as well. So if anything, it's like it's literally a negative them actually punishing this guy in the manner that they did. So. Yeah.
No, definitely. And I mean,
Peter Citron, Adam said
okay. Yep. Yeah. There you go. Yeah, I can't remember the details. I'm excited to ask Nick about that, honestly, because he'll 100% be able to break it down perfectly. But yeah, I mean, they're constantly, I mean, just like in the DC Madams case, they're utilizing the justice system in a corrupt way, you know, to clearly just, I mean, they removed the first judge, I think, in Henry Vincent's case, who actually was going to, you know, allow exposure, like, which is just like, of how many times can we see that same thing happen? But, and then they strategically, you know, used RICO against them both, so they would be forced to accept a plea because it was just impossible to deal with all the different years. And I mean, it's a tool to cover in the cover up. I mean, that's how it is every time, right? But
hey,
I
Adam,
don't know.
You want to bring up that video I put in the group chat, the most recent one? It's just bring up the tweet, then play the video. It's legit some dude. I mean, don't get me wrong, he goes a little bit more schizo than I would. I think he gets in gematria and stuff. But I found this really interesting. This is the guy that fucking. This was, like, supposedly one of Drake's buddies. I'm going to explain a little bit later in the video. It was, like, one of his buddies, part of his entourage, and then, like, right around the time a new album dropped, this guy got killed. It was some crazy shit, like, literally people in ski masks broke in, just straight up just murdered him, bounced out. And then, I guess one of the more famous videos, he fucking literally, one of his more famous music videos from that album, he's literally dancing around, wearing a ski mask, and like there's other stuff too. There's other elements that where you're like, yeah, I get this is all stuff that you're like, you're looking for things that aren't there, but you're like, I don't know. It's like glow so bright. Like I don't like I don't know what to tell you. Yeah, that's it right there. See,
it's all about the numbers. Drake 33.
Yeah, ignore that some of the. I mean, if you like gematria shit, keep it. But I will say, this is what I was getting at earlier. Yeah, no, there is something to that. But I do think when you get too into the sauce on gematria, you just start losing your fucking mind because you're like, yeah, also coincidence happens, dude. And like, really, if you are looking for certain numbers, you will find those numbers. So it's like, I mean, yes, I do think elites probably do hold significance in numbers and such. But either way, whatever. Let's bring up the video. Just a little disclaimer so you guys aren't like Jose's gone full gematria.
Even acknowledging it in his song would sell out Rick Ross.
As soon as I give him the nod, meaning he'll blaspheme like putting a 6 with the guard.
He doesn't even care. He's proud of it. His all symbolism is crazy. They all runs deep in the occult, which I'll explain later on in this video. One of my pinned videos is explaining the all worship in full. So I recommend you watch that before you start talking crazy, cause I promise you won't be talking crazy after it. Before we get into his sacrifices, this video is being posted on Patreon before anywhere else, so please go follow it. I'm on my last strike on TikTok, so I'd recommend strongly. Also, I'm thinking of doing podcast type vids on YouTube, so subscribe to it. Drake's song Sacrifices explains how he made sacrifices and the success he gained after doing so. The song is clearly about human sacrifice.
And I'm convinced I made sacrifices, I've been balling ever since. We seeing so many blessings, shit don't make no sense. Someone watching over us, so shot goes out to him. Yeah, I did something wrong, I had no choice in my defense.
Drake's involved in Kabbalah worship, in which gematria is studied within it. The coded language used by the elite to carry out rituals, sacrifices, and world events. This is how it works.
For those who are not familiar with gematria, it comes from Kabbalah, aka Jewish mysticism. It's a practice of assigning a number to each letter in the alphabet, meaning once you spell out a word or a phrase, you obtain a numerical value, at which you seek the hidden patterns within them.
Drake equals 21 in gematria, and the number 21 was important in the song as it was said 6 times. 21 is actually a triangular number, and Drake calls himself the sixth god. The song starts off with Drake saying he wrote it on the 21st day of the year, bringing up 21 2 more times in that verse. Then 2 Chainz starts his verse off by saying to Chainz, "I'm a real one." And Young Thug opening his verse by doing the same, featuring 21 twice in his verse. The whole song revolves around that number. That's why they put so much emphasis on it. Back when I still listened to music, this was one of my favorite songs, and
all right, yeah, I put up the other one. I mean, whatever, that did get into kind of some of the stuff I said earlier. And I mean, whatever, I guess if you wanted a fucking 101 of what gematria is, you just got that. But I just did send you the other one, Adam. Bring that one up. We'll play that one too. But I mean, I did think it was useful. I know that was super schizo and a lot of that shit, like, say the lyrics, he clearly cut away at one part, so it made it seem like they were the ideas were connected. But I don't know. I mean, I wouldn't put too much stock in that. I wouldn't put too much stock in the numbers. Now, the symbolism does, raise an eyebrow. I am like, in the sixth god and all this type stuff, and which I found this to be an interesting angle through all this, because a lot of things Kendrick has been attacking Drake on is kind of being a shitty man, and which is weird. I love it how it's just like, it's this twisting of the hip hop paradigm where, like, it's like hoes, money, this, that, whereas Kendrick is like finding a thug way to spin it in like a no, family, kids, like protect children, like in a way that like appeals to the hood, to where they're like, yeah, that's right, like yeah, that's cool to have money and stuff, that's all great too, but like get our paper up or whatever, but like at the end of the day, like you gotta make sure you're taking care of your family, like, and like that's the type of message he's sending, and he's attacking Drake on that angle. And then you have Drake, who clearly, I mean, the symbolism is to a level to where, like, yes, maybe you wouldn't attribute to fucking that he's part of some Fed satanic whatever the fuck, but at the very least, I think it should show you he's leaning into that symbolism. Now, do with that information what you will. I feel like it's to the level that there's no way, especially where branding is so important, that these weren't things taken into account. There's no way you call yourself Sixth God without understanding the implications of the letter six, and especially juxtaposing it with a concept such as God. Like, you know what you're doing. Like, you are leaning into this. Now, if that's just trying to be an edgy boy, okay. But it's like, all right, people, it's an interesting component in the dynamic between the two of them, where he has inadvertently, maybe if he's just trying to be an edgy boy, he backed himself into a corner by getting into it with someone who's way more lyrically talented than him and is coming at it from a wholesome angle. So for him, and he's also kind of accepted his stuff as he went, because he's always been on the defense responding to things. So he hasn't been able to push his narrative at all and flip it to where it's like, yeah, I'm about to hose, whatever, you're just a bitch because you're upset that you don't have that, or whatever the fuck the angle becomes. And it becomes way more weak. And I think most people too, especially where Kendrick's had so much room just to go buck wild, people are already bought into, like, yeah, no, like, family, like, like, and even some of the stuff like with the trauma that he's alluded to, he really is like kind of concepts of breaking cycles of trauma and like all sorts of shit. So it is, I don't know, I find it very interesting. But yeah, let's go ahead and play this.
Then I gave you the chain. You got the chain with the ski mask on. Niggas ain't ski mask right up on you. Then he puts on the ski mask and puts his friend on the back of the cover. And then just look at the caption. Dark Lane demo tape out everywhere at midnight. Also, my 6th studio album. Dropping summer, lucky number 6 with the devil face. Like, how much clearer does this have to be? Now, I'm not saying Drake himself did it, because Drake don't have to. Come on now, he don't have to sit up here and get his hands dirty, right? But it's just interesting that he's doing this. And Tootsie Slide, right? Tootsie Slide, which was on that tape, Dark Lane demo tape, where he's wearing the ski mask once again, throwing up the 666. But Dark Lane demo tapes and Forever Fifth, right, which was his caption. Both equal 65 in full reduction. Even Dark Lane demo tapes equals 97 in reverse full reduction, just like Death equals 97. So it was like this album was once again putting it right in your face and taunting you about the sacrifice that took place.
Gematria comes up. I can't help it. I'm sorry.
I know. Oh, that's great.
I think is there more? Is that
right?
That's not all.
And it sounds so innocent, right? Because it was a dance, right? It go right foot up, left foot slide. Basically, I'm saying either way we about to slide. But he telling you though, can't let this one slide. And you just said that he stole some jewelry off of Drake's tour bus.
This is a little.
And he's sitting here putting it in front of your face. And even the music video, he's sitting here. The whole music video, it's supposed to be a dance, and he's sitting here with this ski mask on, with these gloves on, like he's finna go do a hit. So it's like, what's with this ski mask?
That's weird.
What's really up with it?
Fucking weird.
It's almost like he's taunting. He dancing, having a good time. You hear me?
That is a trip.
Yeah, I mean,
In
there's
his own
something too.
crib.
They connect those lyrics to what's going on. You're like, okay. I mean, I don't know. I mean, obviously, it'd be this two.
The day that he dropped
sides.
this, now I told you. I told you that the day that they dropped this is for a reason. He dropped this 4/3, just like killing equals 43. This was nothing but mockery. This was nothing but him taunting and putting it right in front of your face. No shame. And he even went to the man's funeral and was a pallbearer. Did you know that? Did you know that Drake actually went to his funeral?
Keep in mind that album cover,
man, this
the
nigga on
back
some
is
Tupac from Juice
dead
shit.
friend.
These niggas is heartless.
So like the back is the dead
Was that
friend's
Juice or was that Above the Rim where he went to that nigga funeral?
Right? Tell me that's not weird. Like, obviously, it's hard. I feel like it sounds ridiculous when it's presented this way because it's like all the gematria and stuff, and like, and whatever. People can have fun with that, but like, some of that stuff, it is like, okay, yeah, I know, Schizo Boy, you stumbled on some shit. Like, I don't know,
though.
like the like you saw the fucking mask. Like, I don't know. I mean, we're connecting a lot of things here, and I'm not even trying to draw any conclusions. I'm just saying, looks weird, and like, and we're dealing with like people literally rap battling, you know, essentially exchanging poets in a rhythmic fashion, or poems in a rhythmic fashion. You kind of do have to start analyzing the text. What do they mean by this? What does this mean? And it really starts making you be like, yeah, what the fuck's going on here?
Yeah.
And like, okay, I don't know. That's fishy. That's a lot of that was fishy to me. I mean,
No, I'm with you.
none
I
of those
think
things
that,
by themselves, but once they start adding up together, yeah.
right. Yeah, exactly. But I also think that it's important, like what captures the attention of the masses, and especially like, all I'm saying is, I think a lot of these events, they have to be spurred by some sort of, look, a cabal is at play. It is engaged in facilitating narratives. You know, like this is a reality. And after researching the Satanic Panic and what led to the Satanic Panic, dude, I felt schizo. Like, you know what I mean? Like it really like, but it convinced me overwhelmingly that it was a false narrative that was perpetuated by individuals at the top attempting to exactly that, facilitate a plausible enough narrative to the public to where they would just dismiss it at face value, you know? And so for like things of this nature that like I have people, you know, it's like I'm getting sent shit about the beef, right, between Drake and Kendrick, like constantly throughout the day by, you know, people who aren't, you know, kind of like plugged into the circles that we are politically or whatever the case is. But this is like, you know, it is clearly overwhelmingly in everyone's, in the forefront of everyone's minds at this moment.
Yeah.
And so for me, it's like, that's one of two things. It's like, is it a distraction or is it,
I don't
or
think so.
do what?
I know I see people in the chat saying distraction. Everyone goes, "Oh, distraction." I'm like, I don't know. If you've been paying attention to beef, and especially if you've been like looking at the deep cuts and things that are referencing it within those, you're like, and especially looking at it from like, I really feel like there is almost the dynamic here of like you can take political theory thought and go like, this is wild. Like, I feel like you're seeing the two systems play against each other. Almost a more free market system, and then almost the opposite, the corporatized, you know, you fucking goy slop coming out the other end. And it is cool seeing them because there is something, you know, to being the, you know, commercialized goy slop that does give you some advantages. I will say, you know, listening to a lot of these, I think there was one or two I missed, but, you know, Drake did have a lot of really good beats, and like clearly there was a lot of stuff that he was given a lot of advantages. Because let's be real, and even in one of the beefs or whatever the fuck we want to call these, you know, Kendrick did reference that he accused him of having ghostwriters, and I don't think Drake ever even like denied that. And it's like kind of an obvious thing when you have somebody like him that has rocketed to here. It's not like he was someone who like literally earned his keep as a rapper. Like he came up as a child actor, clearly was like rushed to success. So it's like clearly he doesn't have the talent that Kendrick has, but he has that commercial quality that helps you, kind of gives you other things to work with, other resources. And so that made it so he was able to create some great shit. But on the other end, you have Kendrick, who is just literally like the idea of like the free market. This is a guy who had to hustle and actually earn his keep and fucking actually be good at his craft. And he really dedicated himself to becoming like, he's almost the Howard Rourke fucking of this. Like, for those who have read The Fountainhead, he is just that's like, he's the fountainhead of rap music in a lot of ways. And so it is like cool seeing that and seeing these two things battle out, being able to feel the soul in one and not in the other, and see the genius that can be manifested in the individual come out the one side, and the flaws of a mass-produced nonsense in the other. Because this is a man arguing with a committee. That's
exactly. Yeah,
that's what this is. It's a man arguing with a committee, and it is a genius arguing against a bunch of middling to above average individuals that are part of a committee. This is what it is. And so it's like you have been, and so the level to which I would say just straight up the genius of Kendrick and just how the choices he's made between songs of this, the beats, everything, like that fucking song, They Not Like Us, that's a fucking banger. Bro. You're literally like bopping, and it's like, and it's literally you're bopping to shit like A minor, which is like talking about like Drake fucking kids.
Yeah.
And it's like, you got people like it's literally, I keep seeing stories about like, oh, this place is adding it to their pregame rotation. They're playing this club, and you're like, dude, like, whoa, like, I don't know. I forgot the whole point. The whole thing I was trying to weave here, but it's just, I guess that leans to me towards like, if this is a distraction, they outdid themselves. Like, because I mean, kind of the idea of the man fighting against the machine, the genius individual, the Howard Rourke of the story. I mean, like, I really feel like that couldn't be produced.
I'm with you.
Like, this couldn't be, like, that to me excludes distraction, because there's no way this was contrived. I don't see it.
Yeah. I mean,
someone said Alan says rap beefs are prearranged by their record labels. Well, one of the record labels was fucking retarded.
That's what I heard. I heard AI had some shit to do with it too somehow, and I don't fucking know what role that had to do with anything. But my point only is that you clearly, you can, and many people will, discredit legitimate, brilliant talent with whatever, disputes with their political beliefs, ideology, whatever the case is. It might taint it for one individual or the next. Like, I will be honest, I fucking loved Kendrick for a minute, right? Like, when I was listening, I listened to a C4 mixtape and caught a cypher verse. Like, I fucking loved Kendrick, and I say past tense only because I've like been broken from like.
You haven't been paying attention to it.
No, I mean, not as much, but it's only because I've been so just disillusioned by culture in general, what we claim to be culture, what we idolize and prop up and talk about, and I'm not devaluing what Kendrick has to offer. Like I said, I used to buy every one of his albums. Just recently, like, I mean, COVID killed a lot of shit for me. and like going through COVID, I just kind of like, I was already unplugged, but I really kind of just backed out of the room. I was like, fuck this. Like, I'm so tired of being, just propagandized in every fucking way, and so it did take me almost entirely out of. I almost kind of became, in certain ways, just like I kind of stopped liking what is popular or whatever. You know what I mean? Like, but
yeah,
in reality, man, like I said, like I have admired Kendrick's ability, like what he does. His voice is amazing, but beyond that, he could put together a verse. You know what I'm saying? Like, that motherfucker is brilliant,
Yep.
And so
go ahead.
I
Sorry.
find it. Oh, and did you see Andy said some shit like? I saw him tweet. Andy Malafarina, isn't that
Oh,
how you
yeah,
say his last name? I saw he tweeted some shit like, it is kind of funny that it took like you getting your feelings hurt to out somebody as a pedophile. I'm like, that is fucking hilarious.
Yeah.
Dude.
Well, you know what though? Like, I mean, I've thought this through my head too, but it's like, I don't know where he's at in the industry, and you know, it kind of got me thinking too. Like, I guess maybe I was clicking with like all this like Tim Pool, Jake Shields stuff going on Twitter right now. Where the fuck?
Shit.
And I kind of jumped it a little bit because I thought Tim was kind of being a little bit gay. I don't know the truth of the matter between the scheduling, but yeah, I mean, the reasoning that it kind of clicks is like, let's say, and I'm not at all saying that this is an equivalent that I'm Kendrick in this situation or what. Let's say I know everyone's accusing Tim of being controlled in some fashion, like, Israel or whatever, and like I don't see that. I just don't, and I'm not saying it's not happening. It's just I have somewhat been in those circles, but very much on the periphery. I mean, for those, I will let people know the only people I consider myself having good rapport with, and I wouldn't even say like I'm like close friends with any of these people, some of which are more than others, but the only people I really have any like rapport with and can like kind of vouch for would be like Cassandra McDonald, Chris Bertman, one of the journalists, and Shane Cashman. And like it'd be those three. And even then we're not like the best of friends. So it's like, I don't know, I guess if they were fucking controlled, they could, but it's like, you don't know by what mechanism it's happening. And so it's like, I don't know, but like, let's say I was even a little bit bigger. Let's say I was like at the level where my buddy Clint Russell's at, like maybe I would be a point where I heard this rumor, heard that rumor, but it's all stuff that you can't really corroborate, or you're like us and you're really picking up the stuff and like, you know what's happening, but it's not like you could like go to the police. Because it's not like you have any proof or whatever. But now you get this golden moment as the Kendrick, and you are put in a situation where you can use your craft to express your ideas that you're very certain about to a point where you're like, yo. So I don't know to what degree what he knows, because I do feel like he probably, I mean, I don't know enough about him. I'm very, a lot of conjecture, but it's like, I would think he has some sort of view into the middle of things, but not like a huge one. And I did see some Fire Pixie point out. She was saying how it could be real things, not big of a thing. I disagree. I really think, with the Diddy stuff dropping, and then with the cold, calculated nature of all this, I really feel like Kendrick saw the timing of this and capitalized it to some extent. He was like, I do think he probably took into account the timing with the Diddy stuff that just happened, and is kind of trying to tie him into that, and maybe he knows something we don't know. I haven't really looked into the strings, the purse strings, or who controls what, but I wouldn't be at least surprised if you start seeing a lot of ties with Diddy's crew at all.
Where he's signed to, right? What label?
Oh, real quick, I just want to say, so my point being with that, like whether it's a big thing or not, I think that is a big thing. Like, I don't think Drake is necessarily some kingpin, but I do think he's like, he may be a player in something, in some way, shape, or form, or at least a tool. And if that can be exposed and being paired with the Diddy stuff, it's very much more overwhelming. Maybe not necessarily, proof, but it is definitely like evidence that starts to point people in a way to where it gets overwhelming. Kind of like with Epstein, where that shit was so overwhelming that it's a joke with normal people. Epstein didn't kill himself. So it's like, with this happening, and especially if it happens on two fronts with Diddy and Drake or something, it's like, that's some big shit. Like that's big stuff. Like,
and by the way, I just read that, Epstein's network he inherited. It was actually Roy Cohn's network. It was that network that he told James Rothstein about. Anyway, not trying to distract us, but derail us.
I did a cursory glance at like the ownerships and this and that when it comes to OVO.
I just know he's signed.
And there
by
were some
Aftermath.
steens. I saw some steens. I will admit that.
Right.
I mean, I don't know what type of steen, but there were some steens. So
I just know that when he when he left TDE, or I think that was just his original label that he had done with Top Dog or whatever. But when he left TDE, I still think they're a part of it technically, but he signed with Aftermath, right? With Dre's label. I know much.
Who's that?
Aftermath with Dr. Dre.
Who signed with them? I just want to make
Kendrick
sure.
a while back, like before he came out with Good Kid, Mad City. when that album went super big and he like was thrust onto the scene. Like it was right after his C4 mixtape and the Cypher verse. And then I believe he came out with, I'm trying to remember the last album that he put out before. Anyway, I liked it. Honestly, it was a good album. And then he immediately got signed and did Good Kid, Mad City. And then that's when To Pimp a Butterfly and all that shit came out, which all was really good shit. But yeah, he signed with Dre with Aftermath. So I don't know. I'm not entirely sure how connected and implicated Aftermath is. And all I know is everybody says Dre's gay. So I don't know. Yeah. I don't know how legitimate those claims are because I haven't dug into it myself personally. But
yeah,
you know, with all the shit coming out with Diddy, it's like, oh man, like I don't even know what to think at this point. Like
I don't know. Oh, we didn't even mention, I don't think at all during this entire episode, that there was a shooting. Like there's already been a shooting as a result of this. I don't know. Apparently,
get the fuck out of here. I didn't even know about this.
Wait, did I not? I thought I shared it in the group chat. I thought you saw it. No, Drake's bodyguard, or not bodyguard, one of his security guards got shot.
I remember.
So according to what we know at this period of time, there's a lot of speculation of what very sparse in details of stuff I saw was that, you know, the police were characterizing it as a drive-by. This is to Drake's Toronto estate that, like, I looked at the Google Maps and was like, it makes sense why a security guard got shot, that someone could just do a drive-by and shoot a security guard, because they have like a building and then it's like the house behind it. It's almost like, you know, when you go into a gated community, there's a security guard. He has like a personal one of those for his house is what it looks like. So that's what, like, okay, that makes sense. But it is like, either way, I mean, at the lowest level, it's like, violence has entered the equation. To clear, I don't know. I know this guy got brought to the hospital. I don't know if he's dead or anything. So I don't know what the deal is. I know a lot of people surmising maybe he was the mole. Maybe maybe he was Kendrick's mole, or even Drake's mole, or I don't know, all sorts of, or even people have said it's a false flag. Which I don't know the truth of it.
That's hilarious.
Either way, but either way, it's like violence has entered the equation, which is like, all right, I think it's clearly being taken seriously now. So, but what I really want though is, because Kendrick said he had a bunch more. I feel like this will be like where Drake's like, I don't feel like Drake's going to respond anymore after a shooting.
He shouldn't. I mean,
I don't think he will. But I think now it's wondered, like, now the ball is like, I feel like, how savage is Kendrick? Is he just going to send?
This was a bad decision by Drake, dude. Like, I don't understand why. Who? I guess maybe just the ego aspect of it, but who the fuck got in his ear and told him it was a good idea? I mean, I don't understand, but. And like he's just a lyrical assassin, Kendrick. Like, it doesn't make sense. I mean, I don't know. It was like back in the day, that was the number one thing. It's like, okay, don't go at like Eminem, that crazy ass white boy in the corner. He'll fuck you up lyrically, you know. And the even Game and shit would be like, yeah, don't do that. But I just think it's interesting, like who the hell told him it was a good idea? Because I don't see anybody on Drake's side, like publicly. I mean, I don't know.
No,
I don't see many people claiming he had a win. I've seen
some major rappers kind of be like, "Yo, why don't we all just like get along?" And that's about it.
That's so funny, dude.
There's like people trying to pacify it, but not to the point where they're like, "Yeah, I'm with Drake." Like everyone's like, "Yeah, you can't take that side right now." Like it's funny too. One thing people point out with his rebuttal to essentially his diss track after fucking Kendrick said he was a pedophile and shit. He went into detail. He made his claims that he essentially planted evidence. Some of the claims Kendrick made before to make him look foolish type deal. Like, oh, you got played, but it's like. Which is kind of like a silly concept, but I don't know, whatever. Maybe he did, but then the funny thing is, then he only did like one line to address. Like he says all of this happened just to deal with the certain lies about the baby mamas and stuff, and him not taking care of his kids. But when it came to the pedophile thing, the only thing he even said to address it was like essentially one little verse or like bar or two, where it was essentially like saying, which. I do want to add, within this very same song, he accuses Kendrick of being on that Epstein, like, oh, I knew you'd be on that Epstein shit or something, like essentially making Epstein claims. So he, within this very song, admits that there was an individual named Epstein and is obviously alluding to that being a thing out there in the ether. So he's aware of it.
Yeah.
And then within that very same song, then his the way he addresses the pedophilia claims is like, "I'm disgusted. I'd never mess with a girl. I'm way too famous for me to be able to get away with what you suggested." Something along those lines. And it's like, how are you within the same song going to
Right.
refer to Epstein and also make that incredibly weak claim of like, which to be fair, how do you respond to being called a pedophile? I don't fucking know. But the cognitive, the idea that you could be dumb enough to include a reference to Epstein and also claim that there's no way you could get away with diddling kids because of who you are. It's like, dude, I mean, I don't even need to say it out loud.
Yeah, no shit, dude. My God.
Yeah. All right, real quick, I do want to swap over to the call-in part of the show, but I want to take this moment to let you know that today's episode is brought to you guys by Nadeau Shave Co. Big Shave's been siping the American public for decades with their multi-blade razor scam. Eliminate razor burn, irritation, and ingrown hairs caused by deep penetrating multi-blade cartridges. Return to the traditional shave. I know you guys see I got like a beard here. I don't really shave too often, but I usually edge up with it. Every now and then I like to take the beard off completely, and when I do, I definitely use that Nadeau. You don't need those expensive plastic replacement cartridges. Nadeau Shave Co. supplies you with a single stainless steel blades like your granddad used to use. High quality stuff, twist to open. It's a really cool design, as you can see on here. It really is. And then also there's two sides to it. So once one blade gets dull, just flip to the other side. And those things can last you a good few shaves. I mean, there's probably a recommended amount you're supposed to do, but you can make these suckers last for a long time. It's cheaper, it's better, higher quality than what you're going to be getting. For $75 allows you to shave for an entire year. That gets you one traditional safety razor and 100 stainless steel razor blades. Go to NadeauShaveCo.com to get yourself their traditional safety razor. Use Jose at checkout for 10% off your entire order. Oh shit, I fucked up. Real quick. Oh, there we go. Took it off. All right, guys, let's get into the call-in portion. While we wait for call-ins to come in, Adam, can you bring up my Yiki thread? Because I did want to take some time to address this, and I feel like we can just bring up the thread and maybe go piece by piece, just kind of talk about it, maybe use that as a template to kind of, things to reference to, and just kind of like maybe while we wait for calls to come in or engage with chats as well, maybe once we do that. But yeah, if you want to bring up that Yiki one, and we will get to it. All right, let's look at this. All right, tomorrow, actually, I forgot to totally tell you the reason why we're recapping this. Tomorrow, Wednesday, will be the 28th anniversary of Terrence Yiki's death. For those who've been following my show long enough know that that was the thing I've devoted a considerable amount of time to. I've talked to Tanya, the first interview in like something over 20 years she had done on the matter. But yeah, here's just a cute little photo of them. Scroll up real quick. Scroll up. No, up. No, wrong way. All right. Yeah, I just said in this. This is a thread that semi-viral, I guess, a while back. His killers never met justice. He was one of the first responders to the Oklahoma City bombing. Entered the building he was literally the first one. Everything I found says the first one. I've always been kind of cautious about saying whether he was or not.
I know.
You never know when some guy's like, oh no, he was the first one. But either way, he was like literally one of the first. Everything I've heard said he was the first. And he saved over 3 lives. And 3 is like super duper low end. That's just the lowest. When I did that was literally the lowest amount I was able to find quoted somewhere. So I was like, whatever, play on the safe side, go with that. But I've heard I've heard double digits that he saved. So he was like, this dude was built like a fucking. He was an over 250 pound dude. He was probably, I think, in the realm of like around 6'6", big boy. Not the kind of guy you want to fuck with. Looks like he should have probably played in the NFL. So that is important for his story. Scroll down. I don't know if you have anything you want to add, Austin. Feel free. I mean, obviously you can hop in anytime. Any
He's
thoughts?
a hero.
Yeah. His then ex. Yeah, this is referencing Tanya, which is a big part of the lore of the story. Tanya picked him up from the hospital. The quote Tanya, it's not what they're saying it is. They're not telling the truth.
Right.
I would highly recommend people go check out, and I actually put it in my in one of my Yiki episodes of my playlist. I put the full interview. I believe it's the one just titled Terrence Yiki Didn't Kill Himself. I highly recommend you guys go check that out. I believe it was a 96 or a 97 interview she did, and that was literally the last interview I believe she did before talking with me. So It had been a long time, but yeah, that one had that really powerful moment where, you know, she's telling you it's not what they're saying is, they're not telling the truth. You know, obviously quoting Terry, saying he started crying. This is when she picked him up in the hospital because he got injured at the thing. So, yeah.
I remember I heard her on an interview. I don't remember if it was Gunderson or who it was, but I remember that because I wrote it down like word for word when I was listening to it, and I put it in my notes forever. But I remember that she said specifically 2:30 in the morning, right? 4 in the morning, unannounced. He was just about 2 weeks before his death. He would come into her home at these strange times. Yeah. And unannounced, trying to give her life insurance policies. Right. And she said, he kept telling me we needed to get remarried immediately or me and the girls would not be taken care of.
Yep.
Right. And I mean, and she said in that interview straight up, I mean, why would a guy tell you to take a life insurance policy knowing damn well it wouldn't pay for a suicide? He obviously knew he was in danger.
Yep. 100%.
Fuck,
That's what I
man.
think. Yep. All right, let's scroll to the next one, Adam. All right. Around 1 year later after, so a lot of people, this is where some people get lost and they're like, oh, a year later. And this is where sometimes you lose people's interest and you're trying to introduce them to the Yiki thing. I'm gonna exit out of that real quick. There you go. And so it was about a year later. So the people, part of the story is that there was like a period of time between obviously the Oklahoma City bombing and then, you know, from there. And there's a lot of stuff that happened in the interim. There was, you know, claims that he was putting together like a 9-page report that got fucked with. You know, he kept. I mean, there were issues where the police department was seemingly trying to place certain individuals as being the hero cops that were there, some of which may or may not have even been there, and vice versa. If you didn't have proof, I mean, like medical records or whatever, that you were there, then you kind of didn't really get included as one of those ones that they were carting around to media and stuff as the hero cops.
Right.
The funny thing is when I interviewed Stephen Vassar, which is one of his best friends, or so he claimed at least. I'm not saying he's not. I don't know. But yeah, according to him, same thing happened to him. He was one of the guys there, and there was no record of it. His police, I think he said his police report or something disappeared. All right, I got a call coming in. I got to set this up real quick.
I know. Every time that I read through that Dear Ramona letter, dude, I mean, Terry says that shit himself, right? He's like, he even outs one individual personally saying like, I know damn well that he wasn't in there. You know what I mean? Like even saying that he went and changed his fucking clothes and stuff. I don't remember exactly what it was, but in that Dear Ramona letter though, it just really confirmed for me that it was clearly manipulated scene by federal agents. You know what I mean? It's just absolutely ridiculous that.
All right, we got our guest ready with us now. Sorry to cut you off. Guest, just a reminder that you can only speak with me. My co-host here can hear you, but it's just only me and you can have it back and forth. So hey, how you doing? What you calling in for?
Hey man, I'm doing all right, man. How y'all doing?
Oh, killing it. Living life, bud. What brought you into the show today?
Yeah, I feel that. Yeah, I feel that. Yeah. Man, love the show, dude. Love Silverstein. So when y'all already put the Already Dead, I was like, that's what's up. I can kind of barely hear you, so I'm trying to kind of get through the words that you're saying.
Oh, I'm sorry. What? I didn't say anything. I was just listening.
Oh, he's probably listening to the
live.
No,
I'm just saying in general. But it's kind of off topic, I guess, but not really, since it kind of goes with everything as far as the show goes. But I was wondering what y'all, think about, it's kind of old case, but the Mark Kilroy that got abducted and taken to Matamoros, or he was abducted in Matamoros and taken to with that satanic cult, or what is it? It's called Palo Mayombe. And they had that one, I can't remember his name right now, but he was basically the cult leader, and he was running it for a good while, taking money to sacrifice chickens, certain animals, and I think the highest price was to sacrifice a lion cub.
Huh.
And eventually, I guess, people are like trying to. It was mainly like the cartels like trying to get protection. So he would like give them like, I guess it's kind of ironic to call them blessings, but kind of blessings of keeping them safe so the police won't get them. So the more stuff you give them to sacrifice, or I guess the more precious the sacrifice would be, the more protection you get.
Yep.
So this is like in South Padre Island was popping. I used to live in the Rio Grande Valley, so South Padre was like real crazy. And he went to UT, but then they were like at spring break at South Padre, and then they went down to Mexico to just drink more, I guess. And because some of his friends were underage, so you could be 18 and drink in Mexico. So they were like 20 and he was like 21 already. So they went down there, and he just got abducted. Like, I guess they were leaving the bar, and his friends like went to go take a piss. And then when they turned around, he was gone. So they were looking for him. And I think his uncle was something in the federal government. I think he was some kind of customs agent. I can't really remember right now. But his uncle was something in the government. So they kind of got a hold of him to get it all, try to figure it out. But basically so they like cracked his head open with a machete and boiled his brains. It's pretty crazy stuff. But that was kind of like common in that practice that I guess they call it a cult, which I would agree.
Yeah.
They were doing that for like, a good while. So then they were on this ranch, and they bury all the bodies on the ranch, and they tie a small wire through their spine and stick out through the dirt. And so when I guess the body was decomposed, they could pull the wire out and take the spine out of it with all the bones and wear it or keep it on them for, I guess, more good luck.
Jeez.
Which sounds crazy.
Nuts.
But so yeah, that was like a whole thing, and it took for a while, and I guess they cornered them, I think, in Mexico City finally, and killed the main guy, and they got like two of his accomplices to kind of explain everything and say why. But and then they kind of said that he didn't really. They said that he asked his friend to shoot him, but then there are also, some people say like the cop shot him because he kind of knew all the corrupt stuff from the police and the government and shit like that. So they were like, well, because they probably went to him to ask for other stuff, or he was on the payroll. They were on his payroll basically, and vice versa. So they say, oh yeah, he died before we got up there, instead of maybe they just shot him so he wouldn't say anything. But did you never heard about that?
I think I have now. Our producer was dropping hints in the back. I vaguely recall it now because I believe it was one of the cases covered in program. I got
It's pretty old. It's like in the 90s.
Yeah, I remember it being in a Program to Kill, I believe. I think I'll actually, after you got thrown, I'll probably bring Adam on to talk about it because he seems to have a little more recollection, see if there's anything to add to this conversation. But I appreciate you. Any final words before I let you go?
Yeah, well, I mean, dude, I've been trying to call in, and not like it's hard or anything. It's just I've been kind of busy and stuff. But I always watch, or I listen to the podcast all the time while I'm driving, and I look forward to it all the time, man. I love your show. I love Austin's show.
Hell yeah, buddy.
I listen to that all the time, and everything. It's like comes together so much. I'm like, oh my god, I knew I wasn't crazy.
You're not, bro.
No, you're not.
But yeah, it's so funny.
Yeah.
My son's in the living room. He's playing on the phone, and I went to the back room so I can talk without hearing myself.
Oh, yo, is this
He's probably
Conspiracy
sitting there wondering what the hell I'm doing on the TV.
Is this Conspiracy Extremist?
What?
Is this Conspiracy Extremist?
What's up?
I said, is this Conspiracy Extremist?
Yeah, dude.
Oh, I could just. I was talking
Yeah,
yo,
no.
I've heard you on the call-in shows on Tower Gang. Your voice. Like, oh shit, yeah, that's him. Yeah, no, fuck yeah. You guys got your own show too, don't you?
It's not. I'm not Conspiracy Extremist.
Oh, okay.
I'm the Rage Child on.
Rage
that's
Child,
my
I know him.
Name on the
okay.
YouTube and
You
stuff.
have a very similar voice, so I was like, oh shit. Okay.
I gotta meet this guy before he puts me in some trouble.
Yeah.
He's like, it was him. He sounds just like me.
All right, man. I appreciate you calling. It's really cool hearing people enjoy
Yeah, I
the show.
appreciate y'all, man. Hell yeah, I'm gonna get back to it, man. Y'all get back to it too.
All right.
Y'all have a good one.
All right,
Appreciate
you
y'all.
too. See you, man. All right, bye. All All right, cool. It's a good take. Adam, you want to come on for a second? And if you have anything to add to this one, because it sounds like you're a little more knowledgeable than me. And
You're 100% right, by the way,
Yeah.
Adam. If that was what you were implicating, was the connection to the process church. Is that what you had said in private chat?
Can you guys hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Yeah, so he's talking about the case of Adolfo Costanzo, and he was involved in this weird, like, Caribbean witchcraft cult called. He was a Cuban guy, but he lived in Mexico. It's called Palo Mayombe, and they were like involved. They were like a drug cartel, just south of Brownsville, Texas, I think.
Mm-hmm.
And he had this high priestess girl. Her name was Sarah Aldrete. And Costanzo, he was a Cuban dude. He was a gay bob. And he was like raping. He would have his henchmen go get like
gay bob.
He was a gay bob.
What the fuck is a gay bob?
He's a gay guy.
Are gay. Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
okay. It's like I've never heard someone call someone a gay bob.
I got it.
So he was having his henchmen go grab these like young boys, like 14-year-old Mexican boys from town. They would bring them back to this like ranch where they did all these satanic rituals. They'd have like a burlap sack on their head, and they would rape these kids and then cut their heads off with a machete.
What did they call their cult? Did they name
cult,
themselves?
I know the religion he practiced was Palo Mayombe. But I can't remember what exactly they called the cult, but they believed all sorts. They kind of believed in like, you know, that occultism that all the drug cartels do, like the Grim Reaper stuff. They thought they were like invisible, all this crazy stuff like that. But so anyway, they raped this kid from town with a burlap sack on his head. They cut his head off, then they take the sack off. And it's his nephew. It's his sister's son.
God, dude.
So they're like, okay, well, we got it. We can't do the local people anymore to avoid things like this. And that's when they got this spring breaker, Mark Kilroy. And that was their downfall because he was a white dude. So they actually investigated it. And that guy was right. His uncle was a customs agent, so that was able to like expedite the case and actually get it solved.
They Kenneth trying to do themselves,
bro. I'm getting fucking just so crazy to me. I'm getting visions of the finders, man. I mean, like U.S. Customs is heavily involved.
But Henry Lee Lucas talked about like being a hitman for satanic cults, like south of the border, called the Hand of Death.
You're killing me, Adam.
He like described Henry Lee Lucas was, I don't believe he killed all 600 people, but he was somewhere between 2, which like he was officially charged with, and 600. He was somewhere in the middle of that because he described a bunch of these ranches in just over the border in Mexico where they found like all this gruesome stuff.
Yeah, just so happened to be where the finders were taking those kids.
Yeah,
well, they got stopped in Tallahassee, man.
Yeah.
I mean, that's real shit, and that came up with the Son of Sam, and they said the same thing. Basically, was that, and I think it was Henry Lee Lucas or Berkowitz, one of the two, had outed these ranches in Mexico as being 2 of the locations that they had taken.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So if you guys want some more info on it, those conspiracy. You ever listen to those conspiracy guys podcast?
Oh yeah,
these conspiracy guys.
Gordo did like a really good 4-hour episode on that case, so check that out.
Yeah, you want to bring up the he said, well, me and you can both kind of keep plugging away at the Yiki one.
Okay.
See what else. I just kind of want to finish the thread. I don't think there was too many in that thread, and I thought it was a pretty good. It hits the basics and the keynotes, so I thought that was good to kind of use us to keep us on topic. You can stick around. I figured you'd talk it through with me. You can do both.
Okay, cool. Let me pull up this next thing here. So
I just did it right here.
Okay.
Oh, wait.
Cool.
Yeah. All right. Yep. No autopsies performed. There was no suicide note. If ballistics were performed, we'll likely never know. A lot of people could always say there was no ballistics, But then I've seen official claims that there was, but we won't let you see it. I forget the specifics on that, so that's why I put it that way. Because it's like, if you did ballistics but you didn't tell anyone what they were, you functionally didn't do ballistics. I don't give a shit. And so it seems convenient considering Ramona McDonald claimed Terry was going to a meeting and made the choice to not bring his service weapon, likely afraid of being suicided. And I put in that, I can't really even look at it well. If you guys do find that thread, if anyone wants it, I can send it to you. But yeah, in that's the whole, the lore of the letter that Terrence, allegedly, sent to Ramona McDonald, another individual in this case.
Yeah.
Ramona is probably like the biggest person I'd like to interview.
That'd be so
if
epic,
anyone
man.
out there knows Ramona McDonald or whatever, because that's a pseudonym, because she changed her name in the wake of all this, because she dealt with a lot of stuff, a lot like Tanya did too. So yeah, and I believe Ramona got quoted in the CNN article, so I'm under the assumption she's still alive somewhere. And she
That would be so
dropped some new
amazing, man.
info. So
I know when
yeah,
I read through that letter, dude,
yeah.
like
The
it
letter's
blows
powerful.
me.
Yeah. And it's believable when you understand the facts of the case. So the idea that someone made it up, you're like, I don't know, this correlates with a lot.
Terry
So,
makes
it
me
could
cry in that letter, man. Like,
Yeah.
100%.
All right, let's scroll down to the next one. What did he know? Did he see a sting gone wrong or something? Actually, no. The first one I actually pulled that picture was a picture of quotes from CNN that I brought up. This one is the one that is the you can keep it where it's at. This is the one that was the letter that's on. I took a piece from that. Opinions myself. Although some of the things I'm about to tell you are very disturbing. So these are his words. I don't know if you recall everything that happened that morning or not, so I'm not sure if you know what I'm referring to. The man that you and I were talking about, the pictures I have, made the mistake of asking too many questions as to his role in the bombing and was told to back off. I was told by several officers he was an ATF agent who was overseeing the bombing plot, and at that time the photos were taken. He was calling in his report of what had just went down. I think my days as a police officer are numbered because of the way my supervisors are acting, and there's blah, 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 blah. Yeah, that's just an excerpt from the whole thing that gives you a taste of the way in which he was talking to that, and so those who are aware of it, assuming the veracity of it, it's pretty damning stuff, Terry's letter.
Dude.
Yeah.
I worry about you and your young family because of some of the statements that have been made towards me, a police officer.
Yep, that's one of the good ones.
The whole thing is just a smoking gun, man.
Yeah. And then according to his sister, LaShawn Hargrove, Terry said he saw evidence of explosives blowing out as opposed to blowing in, which would run contrary to the official narrative of the Ryder truck bomb being the only explosive set off. Yeah, this was new. The CNN article, they got got a piece from LaShawn, her sister. She just said she heard him say that, something along those lines, which that is what a lot of people, think one of the things he could have, because then it becomes, what did Terry know? And we don't know. So then that's kind of there's lots of possibilities. We can scroll down again. What could account for this? Once again, I see a range of possibilities. Bombing rescue efforts were called off multiple times that day for bomb scares. It's presumed by many this was due to the ATF improperly storing munitions in the building. Did some of those munitions explode? So this is kind of the lighter end theory that people have, is that because they, there were supposedly munitions being held in the Murrah building in the ATF locker, which is not something they're supposed to do, and they had gotten in trouble for that a bunch of times before this even happened. So, that is a plausible explanation, that it was some of the bizarre damage that happened to the building was something along those lines. So more of a criminal negligence than an intentional act, I guess is the way you could put it. And in that, there's a picture here of that, literally from the time of them collecting these supposed stuff. There was an unarmed tow missile, an anti-tank weapon. Now you can get really deep in the weeds too when you start looking into this stuff, because even where it says here there's a tow missile, these are all claims from this person, that person, but then officially they still deny pretty much all of this, even though it's kind of become it's kind of been the accepted explanation among those who are considerable in the respectable range for this to be the explanation, is kind of what it is. So, which, whatever, if that's the case, it's still yo, dude, what the fuck? You guys are still lying to us, and you literally were keeping bombs above babies. So what the fuck? Yeah, let's go to the next one. On the more extreme range, it could imply planted explosives. This is speculation, but it's not without merit. Did Ruth Schwab and Jane Graham witness a team planting explosives in the building? Did he uncover unexploded ordnance or notice an odd explosion pattern in the wreckage? And this is a report here from Jane Graham, who's one of the people who claimed she saw people hanging up what looked like, I forget exactly how she explained it. It's in this affidavit. But it essentially stuff that kind of looked like putty, kind of blocks and wires, and she saw them in the parking garage. So, and it was her and another individual Bruce Schwab, that I just mentioned. They both made those claims. So,
They kind of seem to implicate Strassmeyer, right?
Yeah.
Isn't that the lady?
Well, one of them, that's one contention. One of them, I don't remember if it was Graham or Schwab, did maintain that she didn't really know who it was for the longest time, then went on the Alex Jones show, and all of a sudden her tune changed a little bit to I think it could be Strassmeyer. Booth is of the opinion that it was just kind of like one of those things where it's just kind of like not an intentional dishonesty or anything. It was just kind of like almost a suggestibility thing. You're in that in that atmosphere. So I don't know. I never watched her when she said that, so I don't know how she said it. So I can't really read too much into that. But either way, I mean, there's a lot to suggest that they're. I mean, if you really understand the lore of the Oklahoma City bombing, there is a lot to suggest that it was more like along the lines of someone did it. I mean, I'm not saying that is the case, but there is, once you start doing pattern recognition, there is stuff that like, oh, this CIA guy, oh, Strassmeyer, and you're like, yo, what the fuck is going on here? Like, more than just like we're doing a sting operation, guys. It's like, no, you have big players in here that shouldn't be operating domestically. What's going on? But yeah, that's the whole thread. I did want to take a moment today, just kind of talk about Yiki. I guess we can get into some of the chats. So I don't know if you guys want to skim through, if you see anything with questions worth referring to. I don't know, I'm struggling with that. Let's start from the top. If you guys find anything worth addressing, bring it up.
Cool.
Let me see what we got. What is Already Dead? Love No Way Jose. Just haven't gone to him a while. Well, no, Already Dead is me and for those who want to know, when you're out here, it's me and Austin's show. I mean, I am putting it under the banner of No Way Jose, but it's also under the banner of his. So it's just kind of like we'll put him onto all our channels, whatever, that kind of stuff. So this will go on my YouTube, Rumble, my audio podcatchers. It goes on his audio podcatchers as well. And if you guys do want to do call-ins or do a StreamYard call-in where you're actually one of these boxes on the screen with us, you gotta be a Patreon member. I would say, Austin, I think you should do the same, monetize that. That way we can get some more people popping in. I guess more about the Tim Pool, Jake Shields chat. Yeah, I don't know. Apparently Jake is mad about something to do with he questioned Tim Pool's honor in relation to a discussion that he wanted to have on Tim's show about Zionism or Jews or some shit. And I just thought it was gay because Jake made a lot of claims. And then instead of really actually, addressing with those or engaging with them on that end, one of the first things Tim did was immediately go, look at this guy being a bitch, begging you to go on my show, which is like, dude, Jake is known for having turned it down for a while. He wasn't, the only reason he really, from my understanding, was even considering this is because he was going to bring Nick Fuentes and make it like an actual JQ or Zionism type thing. I was like, oh, so that'd be interesting. That's the only thing that got him on board. He's been contacted by bookers many times before that and was not interested until it became that. So it was just a little gay that to act like,
talking shit to Jake Shields.
Yeah, too. It's like, I don't even like the violence thing. Honestly, I'm of the opinion that's gay. Like the whole you might get violence. It's like, that doesn't prove anything. Me being able to kick your ass doesn't prove anything. Right. But I mean, it doesn't mean I can't kick your ass. But it's just like, it doesn't prove anything. But it just seems like your honor is being challenged and your knee-jerk reaction is to deflect to you're just begging to come on my show. And then there was a line in one of the replies in it. One of the last lines Jake put was, "You lie like a Jew," which, okay, I get, and whatever, be offended by that if you want, but I'm sorry. I find it very gay if you clutch pearls. And on his show, Tim did this whole thing where he's like, he literally is reading on the show and he's like,
"Are you serious?"
Said, "Lie like a Jew," and it literally was like The View, and like,
oh my god.
That's ridiculous. Racism's just not cool, guys. Like, oh my, like, come on. Like, it's just so gay.
Right.
So like that, and just so the idea that instead of actually engaging with the issue of your honor and being like, yo, fuck that, I did not do him wrong, or be like, hey, I'm sorry if you perceived that wrong, maybe I did drop the ball here, whatever. Like, you're being challenged on your honor, and then you twist it, and then also then pearl clutch. I'm sorry, that's feminine energy to me. That's all.
Hell yeah, it is.
I don't know. I felt compelled to talk about it, and it's just like, that's just gay. Like, if you're trying to fight accusations that you're controlled, like, I can't think of a better way to try to reinforce those beliefs.
You're right. You're convincing me.
Yeah. Like,
that's
what
hilarious.
The fuck?
Oh, here we go. Fire Pixie. Fire Pixie. You like Watergate as much as I do, it seems. So I think that's interesting because I actually read, like I said, man, this James Rothstein, this New York, this NYPD detective, like, dude, he is just an amazing resource, man. He's like a treasure trove as far as all the things that he's connected to, as far as what he was investigating when he was in New York. And it seems like, dude, and by the way, there's this book called The Ultimate Evil by Maury Terry, and I've never read it before, but it seems like it corroborates a lot of Program to Kill. But Detective Rothstein, though, I read this insane report that he had he had written this report. And well, basically, first you have to realize, like, according to Detective Rothstein and another detective by the name of Kevin Gannon, right? All of the Son of Sam and all of the Process Church and the connecting cases, which seem to involve, I mean, he claims that once the Process Church found out they were being investigated by the NYPD heavily, that the leadership chose to pick up and kind of move west. And that basically they all of a sudden, he implicates that Dahmer was a part of that, right? When in Wisconsin. And yes, so it's just like, to me, I found that I started reading this book, The Ultimate Evil, and I couldn't believe how much it was corroborating McGowan, right? And his work. But anyway, he, that this Rothstein, he initially came up, as far as in my research, with his connections to Watergate, right? And he was the one that Fiona Barnett was relying on to, as the detective, to help kind of make her case that Watergate didn't only include, a prostitution network, right, and a pipeline from the DNC to the Columbia Plaza apartments, but it also included a human compromise operation that involved pedophilia, right? And so this guy is the one to at least take seriously whenever you're researching any of these claims, I think. And he's, as far as I'm concerned, he seemed to be credible as hell. And so Rothstein said that once the Process Church was figuring out that they were being heavily investigated, right, they started moving west down the interstate. And that's when he assigned them this geographical designation and tracked them into Wisconsin, like I said, subsequently claiming that there was a link between the group and Jeffrey Dahmer. Now, what I also thought was interesting was that report that I had just mentioned, he actually was was tied to the Marita Lorenz, Frank Sturgis arrest, right? And I didn't know anything about this, right? Like, until I was doing my Watergate episode, and I found out that Marita Lorenz was just like a little spook from day one. Like, her mom was even OSS, and her dad was like a Nazi U-boat captain. So Rothstein, he gets, so in 1977, October 31st, Halloween Day, apparently, he received a call from this investigative journalist, Paul Meskill. All right. And he's a reporter for the New York Daily News. And apparently Monica Lorenz, the daughter of Marita Lorenz, had just been arrested in front of her apartment on York Avenue in possession of a loaded gun. So she was to be the last line of defense for Marita, apparently. And Monica was hiding in the bushes in front of the apartment building on 88th Street and York Avenue. She was going to ambush Frank Sturgis when he showed up to kill her mother, Marita, who, you know, we're talking, she was utilized by Op 40 agents who claim, and she even put on the record that she rode with Howard Hunt and Frank Sturgis and some of the Cubans to Dallas with scoped rifles and shit from Miami, which I found interesting. But so she was like linking the JFK assassination heavily, right? And was also ended up marrying this guy and running like some sort of intelligence sort of connected operation while running apartment buildings, which I found interesting. I don't know if there's more to the story as far as that was concerned, but I think there it's plausible, right? And so anyway, toward the very end of this report, Rothstein implicates how Chappaquiddick was how they kind of, you know, took care of Ted Kennedy in a way, and because they weren't really going to allow him to have any sort of power in the future. But anyway, it's pretty extraordinary because I guess his connections went all the way back to the Essex during the Bay of Pigs. So that's why Frank Sturgis actually even trusted him enough to tell him certain things after he was allegedly arrested for this 2-hour interrogation. But yeah, so it's important to know that like all of it connects to the same Op 40 network, which is ridiculous, but it does seem like they're involved with a lot of the cloak and dagger operations happening at the time. But anyway, so I guess like some detectives, they notified members of the New York State Select Committee and their present assignment of the call, which was allegedly to go to Marita Lorenz's house. And so it gets pretty insane because they first called arresting officer of Monica and verified that the arrest had been made for possession of a gun. Then the detectives learned that Monica had gotten a gun off the street and could, I guess. But anyway, they were setting up a meeting with Marita Lorenz and this Paul Mescal, who's a reporter, at a small restaurant on the east side. And they all met at this restaurant at 11. Marita verified what Mescal had told the detectives. She was very upset, anxious, and scared because she allegedly thought she was going to be assassinated and executed. And she was in fear of her children's lives. And so she told the detectives that she was scheduled to testify at the House assassination hearings in D.C. concerning the JFK assassination. And she claimed to these detectives that she had taken part in the assassination plot. So it gets even crazier than that because detectives Rosenthal and Rothstein, James Rothstein, they allegedly went to, I mean, it's not allegedly because they were tipped off and they went to Marita Lorenz's house in order to wait for the assassin to show up, right? Which is crazy to me that Frank Sturgis was going over there to allegedly assassinate Marita Lorenz. And it was because she had allegedly talked and then had tapes of, or at least was considering talking, and she had tapes of her conversations with Sturgis, which that's crazy in itself, right? And so it was a recording of a conversation between Marita Lorenz and Frank Sturgis, and the tape was hidden at his residence, as far as Mescal, this reporter, in Nassau County in New York. And in the tape, Sturgis told Marita, this is a quote, "You know what the rules are and what happens if you talk." And so that was this clear threat on tape from Sturgis. And he's a known assassin, you know, for the agency who had participated in the Bay of Pigs on the ground. And I think he was even incarcerated in Cuba for a time, right? Until he was retrieved by the agency. And so Mescal told the detectives, the investigative reporter told the detectives to pick up the tape at his house. and his son would give the detectives the tapes. So Meskel told them that he would be leaving for the Far East as soon as their meeting was over. And so here's what happened. The detectives left the restaurant with Marita and went to her apartment on 88th Street and York Avenue. All right. And when detectives Rosenthal, Rothstein, and Marita entered the apartment, the detectives did a quick canvass of the apartment. They saw 10 to 15 boxes sitting against the wall in the dining room. The rest of the day and early evening were spent interviewing Marita and reviewing the contents of the boxes in preparation for the arrival of Sturgis. Marita told the detectives that the boxes contained documentation concerning Operation 40, the Cuban invasion, Castro, planning for the Kennedy assassination, and other covert operations that she had knowledge of. So these documents were going to be delivered to the House assassination hearings, apparently, and the detectives believed that they had more than sufficient evidence to arrest Sturgis. So this is what gave James the confidence to go through with an arrest in the first place. And so Marita told the detectives Rosenthal and Rothstein that the Kennedy assassination was planned at a meeting in Miami, Florida, right? And she stated that as the meeting broke up, there was a shootout. And then later, a police officer who responded to the call verified this event. So it was apparently on record. So 5 people left in 2 vehicles for the drive to Dallas. And that's when she made this claim that she was actually there and that they were Frank Sturgis, E. Howard Hunt, Orlando Bosch, Marita Lorenz, and one other. And so apparently on October 31st, 1977, Matthew Rosenthal, one of the detectives, and Jim Rothstein arrested Sturgis when he came to assassinate Marita Lorenz. And when Sturgis rang the doorbell for Marita to gain entry to the building, Rosenthal and Rothstein assumed their position. They crouched low next to the door with their guns drawn and their shields pinned to their suit jackets. When Sturgis entered the premises, Rothstein placed his gun in Sturgis's mouth and shouted, "Police, you're under arrest, motherfucker, don't move." Which I thought was interesting. Pretty cool. Yeah, put your gun in his mouth. Like, that's a little extreme, but I don't know. I mean, who's going to open their mouth right away? But I don't know. But the detective searched Sturgis. And by the way, he apparently mumbled, "I hope you're detectives," with the gun in his mouth. This is all a report from Rothstein, right?
Yeah.
And so apparently Rosenthal had put his gun to Sturgis's chest and identified himself as an officer. And then they searched him. And once the detectives knew that the scene was under control, Rothstein congratulated Sturgis for assassinating President John F. Kennedy. So that's how close he was to all of this. And what I find crazier than anything is that they take Sturgis, right, to actually, take him into the precinct, and he's immediately just, they immediately just remove Sturgis from any sort of potential consequences, right? And they bring Rothstein and Rosenthal into their office and give them a beer and kind of like try and, see how they felt about what was potentially going to take place, because inevitably all those boxes of evidence that were at Marita Lorenz's place, they never made it, not all of them made it to the House Select Committee on Assassinations investigation. And of course they wouldn't, you know what I'm saying? But it's still crazy to me that this local precinct, would so quickly just be able to, how when Sturgis was taken to the precinct, I mean, the detectives, it's just, he clearly was a CIA agent who was operating in the JFK assassination during Op 40. And to me, it's just absolutely ridiculous that we have record of his arrest and nothing was followed up on. You know what I'm saying? As far as that's concerned, that's crazy to me, man. And so anyway, I don't know.
Well, all right, guys. We'll put you out on this one. Drake, the kind of nigga to have Diddy parties marked on his calendar, and he marks off the days until it comes and giggles in excitement each day closer. Yeah, no, that's kind of what I'm getting at with this whole situation. He is. He's even if he's just like a John, if you will. I think this story matters and it can open up things more. Austin, where can people find you at? We're gonna go ahead and get out of here. I'm trying to cut this one short for today. But yeah, it's been a fun one, guys. Next week, Nick Bryant. So show up 9. Wait, what do we do? What did we? 7:30, I think. Next week.
I think so.
So 7:30 Eastern time. We'll be doing a live stream with Bryant. We had to move the time around a little bit, but either way, Austin, where can people find you at?
All right. So I think that, well, you can find me at the Underclass Podcast, at Underclass Pod on Twitter, at the Underclass Podcast on Instagram. But I'm pretty sure like what I'll be covering in the near future will most likely be in the vein of this Process Church group, which is so clearly intertwined with Program to Kill. And I mean, when you, man, put it this way, like when you have Henry Lee Lucas at Ionia State Hospital with MK Ultra connections directly, same with Vacaville and DeFreeze and Manson. And I mean, and then you have Boys Town in Australia, the Beast of Belgium, Perfumo Affair, Kincora, Finders, Patty Hearst. I mean, it's just like it's getting this exact setting in time was so extraordinary. And I don't understand because like how people don't realize that it's a much smaller community that's involved and network that's involved with all these different operations that are taking place, especially in regard to the timing of a lot of these things. And so there is so much crossover, right? And it all blends together. It's not only, organized crime working hand in hand with intelligence agencies. It's not only MK Ultra, and I mean, fucking drug running and weapons trafficking and human trafficking and pedophilia with, pornography and prostitution. I mean, it's just like, anyway, sorry, I could talk about this all day, dude, but I'll leave it with this, like this one last thing. I really wanted to say this earlier because it's insane, man. Like that Berkowitz, the son of Sam, would literally say, he wrote this. There are certain powerful persons who are able to gain entrance into other people's minds and souls. You asked about Satanists. I'm not talking of thrill seekers who hang on to and join every anti-establishment group which comes along. I'm not talking about those who remain on the fringe of such groups. My letter is in reference to the elite and dedicated hardcore members of occult groups. You see, these people cannot be taken lightly. Please try to understand their philosophy of life and society. They have no fear of man-made laws, nor the laws of God. To them, murder comes easy. Being anti-God, they love nothing better than a good kill. These people will stop at nothing in order to fulfill their desires. They have the complete ability to elude the police and to cover their tracks completely. Anyway.
Yeah. Well, guys, check me out on No Way Jose. I'm on YouTube, all major art podcatchers, Rumble as well. Big shout out to my sponsors, my co-hosts on Tower Gang at Tower Gang Toad, at Abrogate D's, then Kevin B. Clark, a full-time guitarist and private music teacher in the New York area, at ZOVERACK, then at _Infinite Zeal, then Jacob Daniel of the Biblical Anarchy podcast, at Biblical Anarchy, then Tim Tuttle, the homie, at Jolly on Klebold, and then the new one I have, this is my buddy Will Bell on Twitter. He makes his own blueberry wine as a business and sells it. It's good stuff. Sells it all over the country, so go check it out. Rabbit Eye Wine. It's blueberry wine. That's his shtick. It's good stuff. Too good. You'll go through it too quick. Maybe don't get it. It might give you a problem. But yeah, guys, follow me on Twitter at Tower Gang Jose. With that, we are out. We'll see you again next week at 7:30 Eastern when we have Nick Bryant, and we'll try to keep most of the other shows at 9:30 Eastern. So pop in on that time every Tuesday, and we are out.